Imagine this. You are walking down a staircase you have used hundreds of times before, or crossing your living room to get a glass of water, or simply standing up from the couch, and suddenly, something feels different. Your body shifts. Your leg takes a moment longer to respond. Your hand reaches for support without you even thinking about it. You didn't fall, but the feeling stays with you. That quiet thought, is something happening to me? Many adults over 60 experience moments like this, and most never talk about them. Maybe they don't want to worry their family. Maybe they assume it is simply part of getting older, or maybe they're not quite sure what is happening. But there is something important that needs to be said. Losing balance after 60 is not simply an unavoidable consequence of aging. There are specific reasons why it happens. And most people have never had those reasons explained clearly. More importantly, understanding those reasons can help you better understand your own body. Without fear, without guilt, without alarmism. In this video, we're going to talk about what really happens to the body's balance system after 60. Why some people begin feeling less stable. Why simple stumbles become more common, and why small changes inside the body may affect balance more than most people realize. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about healthy aging, mobility, independence, and quality of life after 60 in a practical and responsible way. If that sounds helpful, the subscribe button is right below. Because when people assume age is the only reason, they often miss something important. Balance does not depend on just one thing, and that is where the story becomes much more interesting. When balance begins to change, the explanation most people hear is very simple. It's just age. And while that answer is not completely wrong, it is far from the whole story. The problem is that many people hear it and assume there is nothing they can do. They become more cautious than necessary. They avoid certain activities. They begin trusting their bodies a little less. And over time, that loss of confidence can become just as limiting as the physical changes themselves. But the reality is more encouraging than that. Balance does not depend on a single body part. In fact, it depends on a continuous conversation between multiple systems working together every second of the day, even when you're not thinking about it. The first is your vision. Your eyes help the brain understand where you are and how the environment around you is organized. The second is the vestibular system, located inside the inner ear. It works like a built-in orientation system, helping the brain understand movement, direction, and position relative to gravity. And there's a third system that most people have never heard of. A network of sensors throughout the muscles, joints, and skin that constantly tells the brain where the body is in space. These sensors help the brain know where your feet are, how your weight is distributed, and whether the body needs to make adjustments to stay stable. All of this happens in fractions of a second, thousands of times every day. While walking, turning, reaching, standing, or climbing stairs. The brain receives information from all these systems and decides almost instantly how the body should respond. When balance starts getting worse, it usually does not mean the entire system has stopped working. What often happens is much more subtle. One or more components begin working less efficiently. Signals become less precise. Information arrives more slowly, and the brain needs a little more time to react. That difference may seem small, but in certain situations, it can make a very big difference, especially during an unexpected stumble, a sudden change of direction, or an uneven surface. That is why two people of the same age can have completely different experiences. One may walk confidently, while another feels unsteady even inside their own home. Because the most important factor is not always age itself. It is often the condition of the systems that support balance. And among those systems, there is one that is frequently overlooked, one that affects not only strength, but also stability, reaction time, and fall risk. We're talking about muscle mass. Many people associate muscle only with strength or appearance, but the truth is that muscles play a much bigger role than most people realize. They are also part of the system that helps the brain maintain balance. Inside muscles and joints are specialized sensors that constantly send information to the nervous system. These sensors tell the brain where the body is, how it is positioned, and what adjustments need to be made to remain stable. It is a silent system. You never notice it working, but it operates all day long. While you walk, while you climb stairs, while you turn to answer someone, or simply while standing still. The brain depends on these signals to react quickly when something changes. When muscle mass decreases, those signals tend to become less effective. The messages still arrive, but they may arrive with less precision. And that means the brain has less information available when it needs to make rapid decisions. Imagine driving through a light fog. You can still see the road, but not as clearly as before. Something similar happens when the information coming from the muscles becomes less precise. Stronger muscles also react faster when the body loses stability. Recovering from a stumble requires quick action. It requires legs that can respond. It requires enough strength to correct movement before a fall occurs. That is why two people of the same age can experience balance very differently. One may feel confident walking anywhere, while another feels uncertain climbing a simple staircase. The difference is not always age. Very often, it is how well muscle mass has been maintained over time. And this connects directly with the previous video on this channel. In our video about protein after 60, we discussed how maintaining muscle affects much more than strength. It affects mobility, independence, recovery, and balance. That is why preserving muscle is not about appearance. It is about function. It is one of the most important ways to protect quality of life as we age. But muscles do not work alone. Even someone with good strength may notice balance changes when other systems begin to change. And two of those systems are located in places most people would never expect: the eyes and the inner ear. These two systems work quietly every day to help the brain understand where the body is and how it should respond. Most people never think about them until something begins to change. Let's start with the inner ear. Inside, it is an extraordinary structure called the vestibular system. It acts like an internal guidance system. Every time you move your head, look up, bend down to pick something up, or quickly change direction, the vestibular system informs the brain about what is happening. It helps the body understand its position relative to gravity, and it helps maintain stability during movement. As we age, some of the cells responsible for this system may become less efficient. The signals are still there, but they may become less precise. That is why some people begin noticing brief moments of unsteadiness when standing up quickly, turning their heads suddenly, or walking in unfamiliar places. Now, think about vision. The eyes do far more than help us see. They help the brain judge depth, distance, speed, position, and movement. When you walk along a sidewalk, for example, your eyes are constantly helping the brain identify uneven surfaces, obstacles, and changes in terrain. With age, some natural changes may occur. Adapting to changes in lighting may take longer. Peripheral vision may become less effective. Depth perception may not be as sharp as it once was, and all of this can influence balance, especially in dimly lit environments, staircases, garages, hallways, or uneven outdoor surfaces. But there is another important player, the brain, because the brain is responsible for bringing all of this information together. It receives signals from the muscles, the eyes, the inner ear, and then decides what response should be sent to the body. This processing continues throughout life, but it often becomes slightly slower with age. That does not mean something is wrong. It is simply one of the natural changes that occur over time. The challenge appears when several systems become less efficient at the same time. A little less muscle strength, a little less visual precision, a little less vestibular accuracy, a little slower response time. Individually, each change may seem small, but together they can create a window of vulnerability. And that is often where unexpected stumbles begin. The stumbles that once would have been corrected automatically. The stumbles that once would have gone completely unnoticed. And that brings us to something many people never consider. There are silent factors that may be affecting balance without a person even realizing it. How much poor sleep can affect physical performance. But think about how you feel after a restless night. Reaction times are slower. Attention is reduced. Coordination is not quite the same. Now imagine that happening repeatedly over months or years. The body continues functioning, but with less margin for error, and when it comes to balance, that margin matters. That is why balance challenges are often not caused by one single issue. More often, they result from the combination of several small factors. Each one may seem minor on its own, but together, they can have a significant impact on stability. And when researchers and healthcare professionals look at people who struggle most with balance after 60, certain patterns appear again and again. There are certain patterns that appear frequently among people who report more difficulty with balance after 60. Not to create guilt, but to highlight where opportunities for improvement may exist. One of the most common is prolonged inactivity. The body was designed to move, and the balance system depends on movement to remain efficient. When we spend long periods sitting, muscles receive less stimulation. The sensors responsible for body awareness are challenged less often, and the brain receives fewer opportunities to practice the adjustments that maintain stability. Another common pattern is unnoticed muscle loss. Many people do not realize they are losing strength because it usually happens gradually. At first, carrying groceries becomes a little harder, then getting up from a chair, then climbing stairs, until one day, balance begins to change as well. There's also a surprisingly simple factor that is often overlooked: footwear. Your feet are one of the body's main points of contact with the environment. They send important information to the brain about the surface beneath you. Worn-out shoes, slippery soles, or footwear that does not provide adequate support can reduce the quality of that information. The home environment also matters. Loose rugs, poor lighting, objects left on the floor, bathrooms without support bars. These small details contribute to a significant number of falls among older adults. But perhaps the most difficult pattern to recognize is fear. After a fall, or even after a near fall, many people begin avoiding movement, avoiding walks, avoiding outings, avoiding activities they once enjoyed. And while that may feel protective at first, it often creates the opposite effect. The less the body moves, the less prepared it becomes, the less strength it maintains, the less confidence it develops, and the greater the long-term risk may become. That is why there is an important difference between moving carefully and stopping movement altogether. One helps protect balance. The other may slowly weaken it. And the good news is that the balance system often responds better than people expect when it receives the right kind of stimulation. This may be the most encouraging part of the entire video, because the balance system continues learning, it continues adapting, and it continues responding to training at any age. We are not talking about extreme transformations or demanding fitness routines. We're talking about simple habits that can be added gradually and consistently. One of the most studied approaches is balance-specific training. Activities such as Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, and simple balance exercises have shown positive results in older adults. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to teach the body how to respond more effectively. Small balance challenges help keep these systems active. Strength training remains equally important, especially for the legs, the hips, and the core. These muscle groups help support posture, stability, and recovery when unexpected movement occurs. And this connects directly to what we discussed in the previous protein video, because maintaining muscle mass remains one of the most important ways to preserve independence and mobility after 60. Another simple strategy is regular walking, especially in safe environments. Every step provides valuable information to the systems responsible for balance, and every walk becomes an opportunity for practice. The home environment deserves attention as well. Good lighting, secure rugs, clear pathways, support bars when appropriate. Small adjustments can significantly improve safety. Sleep also deserves attention. As we discussed in our recent video about belly fat, metabolism, and healthy aging, sleep influences much more than rest. It affects recovery, reaction time, coordination, attention, and the brain's ability to process information efficiently. There is also one simple habit that many people overlook: hydration. Even mild dehydration may affect energy levels, attention, and stability. That is why small daily actions often create bigger long-term benefits than most people expect. And that leads us to the most important message of this video. Losing balance after 60 is not an unavoidable destination. In most cases, it is a signal that certain systems in the body may need more attention: muscles, vision, the inner ear, sleep, movement, nutrition, and the environment around us. All of them are part of the same conversation. And when that conversation works well, the body tends to respond better. This is not about perfection. It is about preserving something incredibly valuable: the freedom to move with confidence, to walk safely, to climb stairs without fear, and to continue enjoying everyday life with independence. It is also important to remember that the information shared in this video is educational and informational in nature. It does not replace medical advice, physical therapy, nutritional guidance, or any other professional care. Every person has a different health history, different needs, and different circumstances. If you are experiencing frequent dizziness, falls, or significant balance changes, speak with a qualified healthcare professional who understands your situation. If you would like to continue learning about strength, mobility, sleep, and healthy aging, I will leave the related videos we discussed today on the end screen. They are excellent companions to today's topic. You will also find additional wellness and safety resources in the description below. They are not personal recommendations, simply references for those who wish to explore and compare options. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may benefit from it. Because aging does not have to mean losing independence. It can mean learning how to care for the body more intelligently. And we will see you in the next video.